Jed Yeiser,
Indeed.
back at the Blister Summit.
A little late this time.
Yeah. And also early in that we're filming this at 8 a.m.
At 8 a.m.
Yeah, when it's like minus 15 out right now. But we're going to talk about some new K2 skis. You guys have a few things going on. What do you want to start with?
I mean, let's start with Mindbender Cs, which is really sort of where we spent the bulk of our development time last year, and really just sort of retooled some skis that were there and added some models that I think were holes in our line, and I'm pretty psyched to be unveiling.
Gotcha. So you guys, there was a big update to Mindbender Ti for 22-23.
Yeah.
What's happening with Mindbender C for 23-24?
So we've taken the men's and women's, what was the Mindbender 116C and 115CW. That is now one model. So it's basically same chassis, men and women, and we use both men and women to develop these, just different graphics. So all new 116C, all new 106C, which is now being offered for men, which the previous 106C wasn't. And I think, for us that was really, I think, the biggest hole missing in our line. And bringing in a whole new model with a 96C and 96CW. And really the focus with the C skis was, we're very happy with the Teton skis. People who are well suited to the Teton skis are sort of more powerful. They want to plow through stuff. And that's not every sort of directional freerider. I hate that term. But, and so we really wanted to make skis for people that wanted to play. So like during development, we'd ski on the TIs a lot, and it was always like, this ski needs to feel plowy, this ski needs to feel playful. And so that doesn't necessarily mean like light and flighty, but a bit more nimble and dynamic, while still being stable and composed when you're ripping around the mountain. And so one of our engineers, Sean, who's sitting in the back here, sort of led development on these, and I'm going to start with the 106C, which is really where a lot of the ideas came from. One of Sean's first projects for K2 was sort of us trying to make the most sustainable ski we could, which unfortunately never saw the light of day from production. But Sean spent a year and a half, 2 years, working on that, looking at different materials, different processing, and went through five different versions of layups. And so by the time we got to sort of saying, all right, we're ready to start redoing Mindbender C, Sean had already done a lot of work from a shape standpoint and also from a construction standpoint. It was pretty easy for us to apply to the new model line.
Gotcha. In terms of construction, so last year we got to talk all about the new Teton laminate on the Mindbender Ti's. What's changed with the new Mindbender C's?
I think the two biggest things are the addition of unidirectional flax, which really is where a lot of the skis sort of damping and energy response characteristics come from. And then we're using a resin that we've developed with Entropy, a bio-based resin, which we're hugely proud of. I mean, a resin takes up about 25% of the footprint of a ski, and so this resin's a little over 60% bio-based. And so if there's one single item that we can change to improve the sustainability of our skis, it's by making our resin less worse. And it's less worse, right? Like it's bio-based, but it's still toxic. And the cool thing with working with Entropy on that was that our sort of bar was all of the mechanical characteristics need to be at worst equal to the resin that we're replacing, and we're at a place where really every measurable characteristic is better with the new resin. So it's tougher, bonds better to materials. So it's a better resin mechanically, and it's also a better resin for us to be using from a sustainability standpoint. So it's really bioresin and flax are the two biggest changes. We still do have TCD with our spectral braid in all of the skis, which just is a reminder to viewers out there, TCD or Torsion Control Design is sort of how we're separating the torsional stiffness profile from the longitudinal stiffness profile, and it allows us to make the forebody of the ski a bit more torsionally stiff and the aft body a bit more torsionally compliant.
Gotcha.
So like TCD is still really the the focal point of all Mindbenders, and it's, two implementations. You've got C and Ti.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then any changes to shape or rocker profile for these skis?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
So the 116 is probably the closest to the oldest ski, or the old ski, where it's, from a footprint standpoint, almost identical. It's a little bit, the taper region in the tip is a little bit straighter, if that makes any, or it just doesn't come in as much. But other than that, the shape on the 116 is pretty similar to the old ski, but really more tail rocker across the board. And then the new 106C is a completely new footprint that Sean put together. Same with the 96C. We didn't really have anything there. We did start, when we were prototyping the 96C, start with basically a 99 Ti footprint that we just bumped into 96. And moved on from there, but that was a good starting point for us, where the 99 was doing, that footprint was doing some things we liked. And so get that in a new construction, then make changes from there.
Gotcha.
And then, we haven't talked about the 90C or the 85, but those are both completely new as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I think, overall, the biggest change compared to last year's C line from a shaping standpoint is more and higher tail rocker than was in there in the past.
Gotcha. And then, for people who have skied the previous Mindbender Cs, what would you say the main things they're going to notice with the new versions?
I think the new versions are going to be a little bit more composed. They're slightly more massive than the skis they're replacing, which helps, right? Mass damping is a real thing. And the way that the skis sort of move through what we call three-dimensional snow, or sort of variable terrain, this isn't the first time I've had to try and describe it, and I can't do it well. It's it's dynamic without being punchy and poppy, right? It, as opposed to just plowing and going through stuff, it moves with the terrain, but it's not like the skis all over the place and moving all over the place.
Gotcha.
We've tried to make mountain bike suspension analogies, and it works for some people, and if you're not a mountain biker, it doesn't.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm sure our bike editor, David, has
I think I was in David's shop running him by him. He's like, oh, yeah, I get it. I'm like, sick. This is what I'm going to talk about now. But, yeah.
Gotcha. So, for maybe people who aren't super familiar with K2's line, Mindbender Ti, Mindbender C, and I guess Reckoner is kind of the next all-mountain lineup. How would you kind of break down the demographic for each of those ski collections?
I mean, I think the way I look, let's start with Reckoner versus Mindbender.
Yeah.
Reckoner is bidirectional, so if you want to ski or land switch, you want to be looking at Reckoner. If that's not important to you, Mindbender are the skis that we would point you towards. And then within the Mindbender collection, I think the more important high-speed stability and suspension and sort of plowing through things is, the more the Mindbender TIs make sense. The more popping off of things and working through terrain and moving with terrain, the more important that is, the more Mindbender Cs make sense. And certainly if you're looking at a 50-50 ski or a ski that you want to tour on, the Mindbender C makes a lot more sense just from a weight standpoint.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that previously there was a women's specific model versus a men's. What length range are we working with for the new Mindbender Cs?
Oh boy, it depends on the model, but broadly speaking, high 180s to mid 150s, and there are exceptions, right?
Yeah.
The 116 comes in a 194, and I think the 90C goes down to a 147. And it's not, we used to do everything is 7-centimeter breaks. We really spent a lot of time on this, sort of saying who is the consumer for both the male and the female consumer, and what size breaks do we need to hit to get them into that market and get people on the right size skis. So hopefully we did our homework. It took a lot of time, and I think where we landed is where we want to be. So
to kind of wrap up Mindbender C, can you give us a brief rundown on each waist width and each model?
For sure. Let's start at the top because I think it's the easiest. The 116 is really a powder specific or soft snow specific tool. It's certainly capable on harder surfaces, and we spent a lot of time testing it on harder surfaces to make sure it was. But it's designed for soft snow, and if you are skiing on firmer snow or snow that's not as deep, you're going to be better suited with a narrower ski. And then, I think the 106C and 96C, depending on where you are geographically, are sort of your jack of all trades, quiver of one ski. So certainly out west in Washington where we are, it would be that 106C. More on the East Coast, the 96C is going to make more sense. And I think the development priorities for the 106 and the 96 were fairly similar, just with weights, which we can talk about in a little bit, sort of shifted around. So in our product briefs, we really identify like 5 unique performance attributes that are important for the ski. And then for each performance attribute, we assign a weight or a percentage of like how important is this.
Gotcha.
And the sum of those needs to be 100. And so I think the performance attributes for the 96C and the 106C were the same attributes, just with different weights. So it's like, turn versatility in varied snow was more important for the 106C than on the 96C. Precision when edge grip was more important on the 96 than the 106. It was a long time on those two skis. And then, the 90C replaced a ski that we actually were really happy with, the old 90C. We were very, very happy with, and it sort of a very easy and approachable ski, and a great ski that you can put anybody on and they'll have a blast. Is it the most high-speed capable ski? Absolutely not. But we really kind of wanted to build on that and especially make the ski feel a little bit more confident on harder snow, where at that waist width, you do find a lot of the people that are using the ski are spending time on piste or on firmer surfaces. And so we didn't want to make big changes, but did want to kind of tweak that performance aspect. And the 85 is a ski that we put into a lot of rental demo operations. A lot of new skiers are getting on that ski. And our biggest focus on the 85 was to make a ski that's sort of confidence inspiring for a new skier to get on any snow surface. But again, it's mostly going to be on piste at that waist width.
Gotcha.
So,
do you want to talk about Wayback now?
Yeah, so along with Mindbender C, we spent a lot of time last year redeveloping the Wayback 106, Wayback 98, and Wayback 89. The 98 used to be a 96, the 89 used to be an 88. And the focus with those, again, we were very happy with where the old skis were at, but they tended to be much better in consistent snow than inconsistent and variable snow. And if you're touring, you're obviously hoping to get high quality, consistent snow, but it doesn't happen always. And the better we can have a ski perform when the conditions are challenging, the better we feel the ski is for the customer. The ski's going to feel great in consistent snow because it's consistent snow. And so, really went back to the drawing board on those skis, tried a number of different constructions to try and improve sort of suspension. Ended up using a very similar construction to where we'd been in the past. The biggest difference was really by changing the footprints, sort of the side cut progressions, where the old skis were very progressive, so like a very tight radius in the tip and then gets longer towards the tail. The new skis are still progressive, but the degree of progressivity, if you will, is much, much less than it was before. So you don't have the tip pulling in as much. The stiffness profiles are also much more bell-shaped than they were before, so softer tips especially, and tails than on the old skis, and that just really helps the ski sort of move with the snow. And if you're on a lightweight setup, on a light ski, if you're really on the tips of the ski, you can get it to punch through, but you've got to work hard. And what was happening with a lot of consumers was the ski was working them and pushing them around. And so by making the tips a bit softer, the skis are going to move with the snow and not push back quite so much. And then, like the Mindbender Cs, we're adding a lot more sort of tail rocker length, where it just really helps the ski sort of get around and smear and drift at the top of the turn, and that that really started with Dispatch, and that's sort of trickling into a lot of our model line, and I think you'll continue to see it trickle into the model line.
Gotcha. On that note, both Dispatch and Wayback are skis designed for human-powered skiing in mind. How are you guys thinking about like the ideal skier for Wayback versus Dispatch?
I think Wayback is what we would say is sort of the traditional touring ski, and that's not meant negatively at all, but they're very flat-tailed. The skis are going to pull into turns much more than a Dispatch will. They're going to feel more similar to like a standard alpine ski than Dispatch will. And whereas Dispatch is really designed for pretty aggressive skiing in committing terrain, and genuinely like a higher end skier, someone that's going to be able to push it. And I think, you know, the more a consumer is interested in like just going out and being in nature and going for a walk, that's not like, you know, putts around a bike path. It's like if you want to go walk, when I ski Rainier, I do it on a Wayback, right? Where it's about the adventure more than the skiing. And if you're looking to ski lines at speed in dynamic 3D terrain, and you're more focused on the skiing, the more a Dispatch makes sense.
Gotcha.
I do think, I mean, the Dispatch I'm thrilled with those skis, but one thing I think worth noting is that we really didn't want the ski to pull in to a turn at all. You need to dictate when that ski turns, and not all customers like that, and that's okay. But if you, dear listener, is a skier that really wants to put the ski on edge and have the ski hook up, the Dispatch doesn't do that, and the Wayback does.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Easy choice.
Yeah.
All right, Jed. Well, thank you very much for joining us once again at the Blister Summit, filling us in on the new K2 skis. And we'll be going to test them out pretty soon.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Sweet.
Thank you.